West Indies cricketers are smiling all the way to the bank as WIPA and Cricket West Indies craft an MOU that was signed in Jamaica on Thursday. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I really appreciate you being here. With me here today to discuss and to give their opinions and views and takes on the MOU between Cricket West Indies and WIPA are Basil Butcher, Dwight Chatu, and we lost Andre there just for a little bit. Just that he will be back very soon. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for having me again.
Yes, gentlemen, you would have heard the interview, the press conference that was held today by Cricket West Indies. Now, this clip is probably about 3 minutes, the first clip from Dr. Shallow. Gentlemen, I'm going to play the clip and I'm going to ask you to react to it. Give me your opinion. Is Dr. Shallow making the right decision? Or should I say Cricket West Indies? Are they making the right decision? Are they a little bit too soft here? Are they giving up too much for too little? Let's hear your views as we listen to this clip from Dr. Shallow. This is what the president of Cricket West Indies has to say.
Highlights of this MOU. One, we have enhanced team prize money and individual player rewards. And of course, you would have seen this in the media where we are celebrating some increase. I'll leave the details to Johnny and Miles. Also, we have potential for multi-year retainers contracts. I think England, the ECB, has taken the lead with this offering players. We believe that it is certainly a groundbreaking move to allow players to be able to be contracted for more than 1 year. And this offers job security and other opportunities and benefits for players. Also, we have increased men's match fees effective 1st October 2023. This is for both international and regional men's tournaments in the Caribbean. We also have a retention policy for overseas domestic franchise tournaments, which allows and ensure greater flexibility. As we all know, the game is spreading rapidly across the world. A lot of franchise leagues are popping up, and it is important that we are able to facilitate players' participation, but also we want to retain the services for West Indies cricket. After all, we invest in them from the time they start playing under 15, under 17, and under 19, similar to the boys in South Africa currently. And the last one I will mention for now, very important, and I'm sure will probably be starring in the headlines over the next few days. Equality, equality for women's cricketers. You know, we intend and have charted a course where we can achieve parity in remuneration by 2027. And you would notice immediately there's significant increase in those fees for women, cricketers. And absolutely this is going to inspire current players and I'm sure young ladies, young girls who now getting into the game and others. So these are some incredible steps in the right direction to enhance our cricket. Again, later on you'll hear from Johnny who's going to elaborate, but let me conclude by saying that the collaborative efforts between CWI and WIPA will continue as we still have some other matters that we plan to work on and to enhance. One, our fitness and conditioning plan and policy, also our science and medicine policy, selection policy, and the no objection certificate policy, which we call NOC.
Gentlemen, there we have it. There's Dr. Shallow there, gentlemen. Who want to start here? You said a lot. Andre, welcome to the show. We have Andre. Which one of you want to start? But very interesting.
I think our good friend Mr. Chateau should start because some of these things are up Mr. Chateau's alley. I would like
Okay.
Mr. Chateau's
Okay, Dwight, the vote is on you to start, Dwight. So go ahead. Let's hear.
Carlton, my mind is reeling two places when I listen to Dr. Shallow speak. There are some things which he's saying during this press conference, which is um, quite good when we think about a pathway for parity in terms of women cricket. Um, when he talks about enhancing what regional teams will get during the regional competition, those are nice, those are good, those are definitely something that we want to have in place. But then I hear him speak about the other things that we are concerned about. Match fees, no objection certificates. And on that count, I hear him announcing match fees without him explaining whether or not they have tied up the issue of no objection certificates. Because for the average fan like myself, my concern is, will I now start seeing a West Indies cricket team with the best talent in the West Indies going out and running out and representing us? And it doesn't appear that at this point in time that they have come to that place where that is now something that's almost guaranteed. It sounds as if he has agreed to additional fees for the players. He has agreed even to multi-year contracts. But there's no agreement so far on NOCs, and there's no guarantee that these players will be available for most of the games. So I'm a bit unsure exactly what's going on here, because we would think that a normal negotiation would have on one side the West Indies Cricket Board presenting what their proposal is for additional match fees, and on the other side, WIPA giving certain guarantees that players will be available. So I'm very, very puzzled and confused as to what's happening here.
Thank you very much, Dwight. Andre, A come before B. So let's go with you next, Andre. What are your thoughts on Dr. Shallow highlighting the MOU?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, good afternoon, good evening to your viewers all over the world. No, I think that I like what I hear from Dr. Shallow for the most part, and the fact that the female cricketers will be on par in terms of payment, that's a very, very big thing. But I'll also say this, that I think what is happening is that it is in terms of remuneration, it's actually top heavy in terms of only those who represent West Indies at the highest level or at, say, the regional level will stand to benefit from the bag of goodies that Mr. Dr. Shallow is talking about. I think the greatest concern really, though, is what happens at the grassroots level. So we see all the money, the players who represent West Indies at the regional level, at the various different level, getting all these monies. But what about the regional level where it all begins? And that is where I have the greatest of concern. So although I'm really happy for those at the different level getting money or getting more money for the West Indies, I still have some reservation for that of grassroots cricket.
Thank you very much, Andre. Now, Mr. Basil Butcher, let's hear your views on the topical issue.
I think the points made both by Chateau and Andre are very fair points. I think Andre's point about the foundation of West Indies cricket, which is club and school cricket, is not addressed in this. So as to what is the strategic plan vis-a-vis the territories, etc., in terms of that, our foundation has been withering away for many years, and that's why we are where we are today. But another important point on this, we know WIPA, most of our top international players are not members of WIPA. So how does this translate vis-a-vis them? Chato raised a very good point in terms of the NOC. Well, you have to give the president a pass, so to speak, because he said that negotiation is ongoing. Another area I have interest in too is the fitness the fitness policy, I noticed also
Oh,
he mentioned selection policy. So we are looking forward in the next coming weeks the announcement in terms of those areas, which are very significant to me, more so than what was announced today.
yes, go ahead, Dwight. Go
If I,
ahead.
if I may, I could understand why Dr. Shallow had not gone into some of the stuff that Andre has raised. Because if you're watching the West Indies cricket West Indies over the last couple of years, especially under the tenure of Jimmy Adams when he was director of cricket, a lot of work was done on establishing what they call a pathway program that they said starts with Five for Fun that goes up to under 15, under 17, under 19 cricket, that involves being involved in the academy, that involves going on 18 tours. We saw something new where the academy side had a tour game against Ireland. We saw additional tour games, more tour games than we normally have for the 18. Um, and I'm seeing here a structure that is trying to address cricket at a low age group level. I think I've seen a lot of work done in terms of investments that they have been making on the grassroots program and the age group development program. And I think that's why Chance Diary didn't go into it, because a lot has been said about that when Sir Adams was in charge, and a lot was presented on what that program is like. And we have seen them playing a lot more cricket for the upcoming season. I think you guys already know that the academy side will be one of the two new sides that will be a part of our regional first class season. And so those guys at the academy will be playing 7 games as a part of our regional first class season. So I think a lot of work has been done to address some of that Andre mentioned.
Okay.
Uh,
Basil, yeah, go ahead, Basil. Go ahead, please.
More importantly, Chato, club, right? Club cricket is really the foundation of West Indies cricket. And that is something that has never been focused on in any systematic way throughout our demise as a world-beaten team. All the things that you mentioned are excellent initiatives. However, if that foundation does not get arrested from its continued slide downwards, those initiatives will, where are you going to be bearing the fruit from? That's where those initiatives, those initiatives we mentioned, the fruit comes from the club level, and the clubs are struggling throughout the region.
Thank you very much, Basil. Andre, do you have another comment?
No, not on this point.
I thank you. Mr. Casanova is saying that he agrees with Andre on the grassroots primary school level. Without strong roads, strong roots, the tree will just tumble, just like the foundation of a house. Big up yourself, Jamaica. Let's hear now, when that question of NOC was posed to the president of Cricket West Indies, this was his reply when he was asked, are we going to have our best players?
Does this MOU that is signed will work in a way that we can see West Indies best 11 on the field most times than not?
We certainly hope so all. This MOU is obviously, as I said earlier, is conducive to us having our players available to us, and by incentivizing them more, we expect that they'll be more available to us. But again, it addresses different components of our cricket. But certainly that is one. Also, you would have heard me mention about further discussions with WIPA about the NOC, which is no objection certificate, which we also have to continue to address.
I am flabbergasted flabbergasted by that reply by the CEO, by Cricket West Indies president. Here we are giving out all this money. Now, this agreement was signed in Jamaica. So Cricket West Indies president have to come to Jamaica to Wavell Islands and give the players all these goodies. But yet still, he got nothing from Cricket West Indies president. Gentlemen, starting with you, Basil, how do you really explain this? Is Dr. Shallow in a position of weakness there?
This NOC thing, as we have discussed in other forums, is a very touchy subject, and especially with this environment as it's ongoing. Because one of the questions I raised earlier, a whole lot of our international players, who a lot of these goodies are being doled out to, are not members of WIPA. Now, who is representing them? Right? That's an important point. Now, you sign this MOU. Are these guys subject to that MOU also, not being members of WIPA? That's a question number one. Number two, look, we just seen the situation. Why I say this is a really touchy thing. Pakistan board refused to get an NOC to a player, and now you're hearing rumblings that Pakistani central contract players want to walk away from their central contracts because of this NOC row. So I think these negotiations with this NOC is something we have to keep our eyes a sharp eye on. I hope Mr. Chateau, because he is the eagle eye on this subject, will keep a sharp focus on the coming of what is going to be coming out of that, because he is very adamant about this NOC business.
Thank you very much, Basil. You mentioned Pakistan and the players talking, but I can tell you, Basil, that's all the players in Pakistan can do is talk. The board is going to win in Pakistan. Dwight Chateau, I know on this subject you have a lot to say. So let me hear from Andre first. Andre, go ahead and the answer to that question.
Yeah, I mean, the topic regarding NOC will always be a very, very tricky one, because, at the current climate where T20 franchise cricket is concerned, and the boards, they have to be very, very careful in the path that they actually take. And I think, what I think it is really full time. Not only the respective boards need to put their feet down or need to come to some form of compromise. I think it's full time that the Indian Cricket Council, the International Cricket Council rather, there's a full time for them to intervene and to see how best they can come to some form of solution to alleviate this very, very pesky problem, this problem of the NOC, where all boards are concerned. It is a lingering problem, and they don't seem to want to address the problem. And I think then it is full time now that they need to intervene, because it seems to me that the power where NOC and players are concerned, it is out of the hands of the respective boards. So it's time now for the governing body to intervene and to come to the board to get some form of solution where this is concerned.
You and I know, Dwight, that there's a protocol there to solve this issue, and it just needs to be used. Now, I'm coming to you. I know you have your comments, but there are also two questions that I would like you to answer in your comments also. Is it that the players have too much power, and according to Jamaican, Shallow was sounding very shallow, and he doesn't inspire confidence? So I know you have a lot to say, but can you answer those two questions also?
Well, let me start with the second one, and I hate to be disrespectful to Dr. Shala. I think that there are several plans and initiatives that he has presented here, which are quite noble. I know that he has an agenda to reforming the structure of the West Indies Cricket Board that he's eager to push along. So I hate to sound very hard on someone that has a vision to push the administration of the cricket forward. But I have to agree with the person. What I have heard in this presentation by Dr. Shallow really represents weak leadership. Okay? The other question about whether the players have too much powers, I 100% agree that these players have too much power. And if you allow these players to go down the pathway that they're going at this point in time, there will not be much of the cricket for future generations. People need to recognize that all that we see, all that is given in terms of age group cricket, all that is given in terms of regional cricket and the structures that we have, and players even having a platform to showcase their skills to the world, comes from the pockets of Cricket West Indies and comes from what we get by playing international cricket. There is no way you can destroy the goose that basically is laying the golden egg that finances all of what we're seeing, simply because players want to make as much money as they possibly can make. That just doesn't work.
Okay, thank you very much, Dwight. Could you answer this question for me, Basil? Athena is asking, how does a player become a member of WIPA?
I think WIPA, you have to be a representative of your regional team, and then you could become a member of WIPA. You have to at least play at the regional level.
What about at the under-19 level?
I'm not so sure that under 19 players are members of WIPA as of yet. Maybe they have extended their membership, but I'm not so sure about the under 19s, because remember the under 19s, they only
there are some of them that are over 18.
Yeah, but not so much their age, but they you play on the 19 1 year for your territorial team, and then you're off, right?
Yes.
It's not like the regional players who would be contracted by the franchise in the respective territory, and they would come on the WIPA, because if you remember, they would say we have 90 players, which is 15 from each of the territorial boards, plus the international players. That's who West Indies board are paying out monies to every month. But the point is, I remember all the players pretty much walking away from WIPA following the 2014 debacle, all in international players, that is. So the question is, how many of our current international players, well, maybe they may be most of them now, because we have had a big turnover with the international players, because there's a lot of the younger guys now in the international teams.
Well, thank you very much. Andre, Jamaica is saying that the ICC is a part of the circus. They will not stop it. The IPL owners have their people in the ICC already. How do you react, Andre?
As I said, it is there. I think the ICC, they're a weak organization, and I think they ought to be blamed a lot for what is taking place, where NOC is concerned, with the players being back and forth with the respective boards. They failed to put their feet down in the first place, and now it is all, as Jamaica said, they are part of the circus. They're powerless, really. And I think that it is so difficult now to maneuver, reason being that a lot of these T20 franchise, they already signed multi-year contracts, billions of dollars in contract in terms of TV rights. So it is very difficult now in terms of finding the necessary window for international test cricket in particular. So they are at a crossroad where that is concerned. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they will deal with test cricket, international cricket on a whole going forward, along with the T20 franchise.
Dwight, I comment to you, Basil. Dwight, how do you react to what Andre just said?
I totally disagree with Andre. With all due respect, and I know that we like to blame the ICC for a lot of stuff, but let's be honest, gentlemen. The ICC, when T20 cricket started to cricket leagues started to show themselves all over the world, the ICC took some time to put together a document. At the start of the document, the ICC made it absolutely clear: international cricket is central to the growth of cricket and for the sustainability of cricket. And it came up with the concept of the NOC. It said no player can participate in any of these T20 leagues unless an NOC is issued by their home board. That is the work that the ICC did. Then they left it up to each board to do what they're doing. Now, each board, they have done a particular course. We have looked at Pakistan. That's very clear, very stringent, very clear in their policy about how they issue NOCs to ensure that they have a strong side. We have seen Bangladesh, we have seen Afghanistan, we have seen India, who have come out, and India have said, listen, you cannot participate in any foreign leagues. You can only stay here and play here. And India has been very clear. We have seen Australia come out, and Australia has sat down with its Players Association, and they have come to an understanding. They have signed an MOU that says players here will not be given NOC during our season unless there are very, very special circumstances. And I can think of maybe only one Australian player who has been given an NOC during their season. All right, Andre might be able to find another. But those boards have been clear. We have seen England gone the other way. They have decided that they will compete with IPL money and T20 league money, but they can do that because they collect revenues of maybe $400 million per year. The West Indies collects between 50 and 70 million in revenue per year. And what have they decided to do? They have decided to mimic England. You don't have the money to mimic England. You cannot compete with IPL money. You cannot compete with ILT20 money. You cannot compete with that. So it is best you craft a retention policy that ensures that the rest of the world, you have a decent international side that is out there playing your cricket, or your whole thing will come hurting you in the long run.
Basil, now I know you have a point, but I also want you to take this into consideration when you are answering.
Mm-hmm.
The power is in the pen, right? If you and I know that if, say, the PSL want a cricketer from the West Indies, even before they give that cricketer a contract, they would call CWI and ask them if they are going to release the player. All right. So the power is really in the pen, because whether that cricketer has a retainer with West Indies or not, Cricket West Indies can still don't issue an NOC, whether that player have a retainer or not. Am I right?
Correct.
And then, so really and truly, is it throwing money at the players, or is it having a system and a structure? Because I have said it all the while, I believe both leagues can survive together. When I say both leagues, I mean international cricket, including test cricket, and franchise cricket. I think both of them can survive together. What it needs is some structure. Go ahead, Basil.
I agree with you. I want to just say something, and the ICC will come into play. It's ironic. I remember many years ago, Ravi Shastri, Sunil Gavaskar referring to the ICC as paper tigers, right? As toothless tigers, to be clear. Those were the days when England and Australia and so on still were the ones who ruled the cricket world, and India was on the outside just like all the others. And now today we see the process still remains the same. What I think is the mistake with the NOC situation is that should have been a policy that is uniform across the board, put down by the ICC, that all their member boards would adhere to, rather than each individual board trying to come up with their way of how they're gonna. So they all would be in negotiation together and come up with a common team. So everybody's on the same page, playing the same game all along, right? And that is something. And as you're saying, Carlton, that's the kind of structure we are looking for. Such things will also include these leagues will have to give remuneration for the use of players from various territories. You know, not just the IPL where they're paying this 10%. You're gonna have to have a more robust negotiation that they gotta come up, because when we look at the IPL books, they are making billions of dollars, and you want to send 120,000, 50,000 to us? No, we gotta draw down a little better than that, so that when a player goes there, we are able to now finance our cricket structure to continue to nurture players from the ground up, i.e. the clubs all the way up, not the 120,000.
Andre, I know you're itching to reply. Go ahead, sir.
No, I mean, yeah, I very much agree with what Basil said just now. As I said too, that the ICC, they're the governing body. They need to actually put their feet down and do something, because obviously the board, let us take West Indies Cricket Board, Cricket West Indies, for instance. It is quite obvious that Dr. Shallow, he doesn't want to get into the bad book of the WIPA. They had a very tumultuous relationship in the past, and I don't think they want to get back to that place. So what they want now, they want to, try to come with some form of agreement that will benefit both WIPA and Cricket West Indies. But it seems that Dr. Shallow is quite timid as to how to go about addressing this particular issue. He doesn't want to say, I'm going to put my feet down and probably not give NOC to a lot of these players for some of these leagues. But it's very, very interesting to see what they'll do. But I think that I did hear, I think Waverlines mentioned, saying that once players go to the overseas T20 franchise, that they will not be paid by Cricket West Indies at that point in time.
Yes, Dr. Charlotte did say that. Thank you very much, Andre. Now, let's move on. I know we could talk about this all night, but let's hear what Johnny Greaves, and there are 2 clips from Johnny Greaves. And this is the first one from Johnny Greaves. Let's hear what he has to say.
That would allow us to finance and fund all the cricket in our system and the expanded cricket that we've started to enter into, with more A-team cricket, more academy tours, home and away. Obviously, the establishment of the men's and now the women's academy. And as we've just seen, and the president rightly mentions, fantastic win now by the under-19s, who are now, both teams are now in 12-month preparation periods for those World Cups. So the girls team have been in Antigua in their sort of the start of their 12-month journey for their World Cup last year, and the guys who are in South Africa have been together for a year under Rohan Nurse's one. I think as we highlighted in the press release, this is a historic moment for us in Cricket West Indies, not because we've just entered into a new 4-year MOU with the Players Association, but really highlighting what the president said in terms of a landmark change in how women and girls will be rewarded in our system, and that move towards pay parity in match fees, team prize money, captain's allowance by the end of this period, October 2027. Significant, unprecedented sums, making really probably female cricket in terms of revenues, the preeminent sport in the region from a professional earnings perspective. So really exciting for us to be involved with this. I think it's been a long time talking to WIPA. I think we've had very healthy, very productive conversations, meetings, discussions, negotiations, and I think genuinely we've reached a really good win-win for both parties. So I think this is fantastic for our players, and particularly those players in our women's setup. But also it's a good win for us to have a new framework that encapsulates some of the new initiatives that we've entered into over the last few years. So this MOU not only caters for our professional international men and women's players, but like in the past, it deals with our regional men, but it will also now allow for the professionalisation of women's cricket at regional level, with up to 6 regional contracts being afforded to players at the end of this cricket year, so from October 2024, with that number rising over the next 4 years, so that by the end of the cycle, we hope to have professionalised the women's game at regional level as we build out the pyramid base that underpins the A team and the senior women's team. I think all of this comes on the back of 2 very good financial years. So we obviously had a very difficult time, as most organisations did during COVID. But coming out of that in 2021, we had a deficit of over $23 million. We're now in a position, subject to the final audit that's taking place now, where we've reduced and eradicated that deficit and now have a surplus of more than $10 million with another good year to come, with in this financial year, England coming just before Christmas and the World Cup that's going to be here in June. So this is going to set us up brilliantly for what will then be 2 very difficult years in 2025 and 2026, where we don't get the big revenue generating tours of England. And
but the West Indies Cricket Board have a lot of money, Shatu.
Quite a lot, but this is something that we have heard at different times from Sir Greaves. He has made it clear that they make somewhere between 50 and 70 million US dollars during the years that they can get India or England to tour. They make around 70 million, but on non-peak years, there's a revenue fall off. They have had a good year where they made, I think, around a $20 million profit. I think it was last year. This year, based on what he's saying, it appears that they have made another $10 million, and they're going to enter a new financial year where they would have made money from the England tour, and they would have made money they will make money from the upcoming World Cup. So they have made good money. But I don't think that they're putting that good money to the best use. We guys have to remember that back in 2014, an international player made somewhere in the region, I think, of around 17,000 US dollars per match. And that figure was cut all the way down to 5,000 US dollars per match to facilitate a greater pool of players being paid. I think it was regional cricketers who came on board, and they came up with a clear system to play regional players. Right now, we're at a place where we're at a crisis. And at a time where we have some resources, it cannot just be a situation where we're just increasing match fees and hoping that by increasing match fees, players will play for the West Indies. That's not how it works. We have to sit with the board, with WIPA, and come away with that, with a clear agreement. But that negotiation has to be guided by a retention policy that understands the cost to develop cricketers and the returns that we're getting or the losses that we're incurring by allowing them to go off and to play franchise cricket for maybe a 10% for the IPL and not more from anybody else.
Thank you very much. How do you react, Basil? We have a lot of money, and we are making our female cricketers in the region the #1, the highest paying female sports in the region. How do you react to that, sir?
I mean, for the players, that is excellent news for them. However, as I stated earlier, that's a top-heavy investment. But from their perspective, they may say, well, this will help to inspire more young ladies and girls and so on to play the sport because they can make a living out of the sport. But that is true, but also the investment what I'm asking for, the MOU says XYZ, but what we're not hearing anything from the regional perspective, the territorial. But I want to add this. All the things we are saying, we are hearing about an MOU agreeing on XYZ. To me, what would be instructive is if we can be able to get a copy of that MOU, because the devil will be in the details. As Chateau is lamenting, we would have a more clearer picture as to what these agreements are, and put costs to each of the agreements, get an understanding. And I think that is a document us, all cricket fans, should be able to go up on the CWI website and access at their leisure and read through this document.
Andre, in this MOU, this MOU by WIPA and Cricket West Indies, we are hearing what Cricket West Indies is giving. Shouldn't we also be hearing what the players are giving, Andre?
Yeah, that's a very good point right there. It is everything is geared towards players receiving, X or Y amount of money, getting, a pretty tidy sum for playing. But we know that not all these players are really of great quality, so to speak. So what we give, say, player A, who is not of a great quality, $250,000 for the year. What do we get from them? That's a very good question, Carlton. And do they get the same amount next year for very mediocre performance? So we need to, although they it's all good and well for players to be well remunerated, but it should come at they should be able to produce the goods. And if you're not producing, you said no, you can't get X amount, you can't get Y amount if you don't produce. So I hope it's a case where it's the incentivizing that form, that it's based on performance. And if you don't say perform,
Yes, Basil.
Yes, he did. They did say that there are going to be incentives, and with this new MOU, also the fitness issue. Also, again, that's something we would like to know about too. That policy, because all of that is going to relate to the things that a player, the responsibilities of the players in getting this quote unquote jackpot that the board is now flashing before their eyes.
Yes, and you made a good point here. Dwight, is Dr. Shallow in such a weak spot? Because the American saying a strong leader will not be liked by weak people. We understand. Is Dr. Shallow position so weak that he has to fly to Jamaica to meet the Cricket West Indies president, and we have no responsibility of the players? We are only hearing what CWI is going to do.
Wow. I don't want to make too much of him flying to Jamaica. I don't want to make too much of that. But I think his position has been weak, and it was weak because they had taken a particular approach to this issue of losing players or player retention. And we heard Johnny Grease talking about it while he was being interviewed recently. Their position was, if a player wants to play somewhere else, go ahead. They will not stop the player. Whoever wants an NOC, they'll give it to them. They will not force anybody to play for Cricket West Indies. They will simply tell you, go ahead and go and play, but you might lose your spot on the cricket team. I don't know if Paran worries about losing his spot on the cricket team. All right. I don't know if Hepmeyer is so deeply concerned that he'll not be able to come back and command a place on the cricket team. But that was the weak place, or that was the imprudent place from where they started. That they thought that they could just tell players to go off if they want to. And now that's affecting them, I think they are now unsure exactly how to respond. And that's where we're getting weakness. But I think, like you said, the biggest weakness is to come out of this situation where you are telling players that they will get more money, that they'll be incentivized, that they will get bigger prize money, but you have no guarantee whatsoever. All right, that just doesn't make any sense. We would have thought that there would have been something of an agreement between WIPA and CWI where there's an understanding as to what is expected of the players in terms of representing the international team, which is the team that's making the money for us.
Thank you. So, Mrs. Jennifer Brown, glad that you're on the show. So, a no objection certificate is like, say a team in England want a cricketer from the West Indies to come to England and play. That team will have to apply to the Cricket West Indies, and Cricket West Indies will issue a no objection certificate that they are not objecting to the player. The player is free to come to England and play. If Cricket West Indies does not issue that NOC, then that player cannot go to England and play. So an NOC is really a no objection certificate.
So, Brown, I just want a slight correction.
Yes.
The team doesn't apply. The player applies to the board.
Yeah.
The player applies to the board. And
Yes.
a lot of times this is done by the player's agent.
Yes. And interestingly, though, although it is the player who applied, say England, say the 100 is going on, the ECB would contact CWI and ask if they are going to issue the NOC to the player, although it's a player who has to apply. They usually do that.
Yeah, because also with these NOCs, also you have bilateral board agreements. Like I'll give an example, South Africa board and BCCI, they agreed that the players, this was like several years ago when the IPL didn't have the exclusive window. They would say that South African IPL players would not leave early, irrespective of international duty. And if you remember, that issue came up in 2019 when Otis Gibson, the then coach of South Africa, wanted the South African players to be encamped before that World Cup. And the CEO of Cricket South Africa was, sorry, Otis, they have to play out the entire CPL and IPL, and then you'll get them to camp.
Thank you very much. Andre, Mr. Casanova is saying, Andre, I don't believe in this equity thing at all. You should only get the amount of money you deserve. How do you react to that, Andre?
Very, very interesting. You should only get the amount of money you deserve. It's a very ticklish one, you know. And what is happening now in terms of females, you know, I don't think the West Indies cricket want to rub the females right now on the wrongfully, so to speak. So they're going to be very careful in terms of how they deal with them in terms of equity. I mean, a lot of people could argue, and Mr. Casanova probably have a point in terms of, say, the quality of the female cricketers, probably they're not as good as that of the male, right? But as they probably want to encourage the females, yes, to participate, and you know, the females might be saying, I mean, we're doing the same job. If it's 20 overs, how come? Why is the males are getting more money than us? And I think it's a more political type of decision more than anything. So Dr. Shallow is treading very, very carefully in this regard, and I can't blame him for this.
Yeah. Go ahead, Basil. Then I come to
I think there's a couple. The two things I think Casanova is conflating two things. Number one, the player is representing the West Indies. That's a national entity. It's like you representing Jamaica. Let's just use this as an example. if a man is running for Jamaica and a woman is running for Jamaica, they're representing Jamaica, right? They're representing their nation, so they get the same pay. Where it comes is now when they're gonna go for these professional contracts where it's an individual going in a league or something, and based on your ability to draw to bring in eyeballs to the to your league, you get paid accordingly. But when you're representing your national sport, I believe the women and men should be paid the same amount.
Do you agree? Do you agree, Dwight?
I 100% agree with Basil, and it's for even a slightly different reason that he has pointed out. I have heard the argument because we have heard this argument in international football. People will look at the men's World Cup and they will say the men's World Cup generates a certain amount of money. The women's World Cup generates far less. Why is there a push for women footballers going to the World Cup to get the same amount of money as the men who go to the World Cup? Because they're looking at this two separate tournaments. And I think that's a similar thing that they're taking here. But what people don't recognize is every individual who becomes interested and participates and plays the sport of cricket participates in the growth of the game globally. People should recognize that a lot of these people who end up becoming great batsmen were not encouraged by their father, but their grandmother and their mother. And it was their mother who took them to training. And that mother, chances are, had that interest and that care to want to see her son do well because she herself, chances are, played cricket. So they're looking at it from the point of view where if we encourage women cricketers to women to play cricket, to play the sport, if we pay them equally, then that investment pays off in the long run because as primary caregivers in their homes, they will be the ones who are encouraging their sons and their daughters to help to be a part of where a lot of the money is made in cricket, which is maybe the men's side. So I agree with it. I agree with it 100%.
Okay. Shaquille Caesar is saying that what if Cricket West Indies just issue like 2 NOC like what Pakistan does? We know the IPL is a clear window, so there's no issue there. The CPL is a clear window. What if they just issue 2 more NOC along with those 2? What are your thoughts?
We had a conversation about this the other day when I posted the thing.
Sorry, Basil, it was Andre that I wanted to respond. Sorry about that, Basil.
My bad.
Oh, you're asking me? Oh. I mean, I think that would be fair enough. You know, the IPL, CPL, and say 1 or 2 other. That would be fair enough. You know, because you know you don't want these players to be playing every single T20 franchise tournament and not representing West Indies at some point in time or at their leisure. So if West Indies should go in that direction, I wouldn't see, you know, the biggest of problems where that is concerned, if they should take that bold step.
Okay, let us listen to the final interview, the final clip, and this is from the director of cricket, Niall Bascom. Let's hear what Bascom has to say.
Bear down on the increases in prize money. Just to look at it from that strategic standpoint. The idea is definitely to incentivize team and individual performances. So obviously we want teams to come out and play hard cricket, and a $250,000 prize, you know, for the West Indies Championship definitely goes a long way in that direction. And we have also streamlined our performance grading system. We did it with the men's a few years back, and now we are aligning the international women and regional men's contracts. And one of the key changes is that it would allow us to also have the opportunity to add further incentives. We have, well, from 1st of October 2024, there would be added bands at the top levels of that contract banding system. And really that is to allow, you know, the top performers to really be able to access additional finance. And that is where we want to go. We want players to feel as though they are well rewarded for putting in great performances. So from a strategic standpoint, we want to align everything in our system around performance, which includes the fitness and conditioning policy that we are currently working on, and the plans that we have in terms of our selection policy and selection system. We want to ensure that we have that complete alignment, and the increases in prize money is that is one start, as well as some of the initiatives that we have already put in place, as we did in the Super 50 with the bonus point system that was meant to incentivize the teams to play according to our West Indies 50 over brand. So we want to continue to build that out across T20 and across the red ball game.
So there we heard from Bascom, who is the director of Cricket West Indies. So we thank him for that. Now, just before we go to Bascom, and I hope that you gentlemen would have made your notes. Mr. Casanova is saying that, be honest, gentlemen, most of us don't even watch the ladies play and could not even name a female. So clearly, the men team is getting more eyeballs than the female team. So why would you want to pay the female team an equal amount when they are getting more viewership? Thank you very much, Juna Benjamin. I appreciate it. Juna Benjamin is bigging up you guys. He's a legend of the chat. So thank you, Juna Benjamin. Who wants to take? Yes, Basil, I see you're very interested.
Again, the women are representing the Caribbean nation, right? And I will say this to Mr. Casanova. When the West Indies women were playing in the World Cups recently, I could tell you all the guys I know who are cricket fans were all tuned in to watch the West Indies women play. After the tournament is over, they ain't watching women's cricket. But when the West Indies women are playing, they all are tuned in. And the chats is consistently filled with discussion about the play of the women on X game and what they need to do for the next game and so on. Because they're representing the Caribbean nation is different. I understand what he is saying, but they are representing the nation. It's like as Andre said earlier, you go to a job, you and a woman doing the same exact job like you are doing, and you want to pay her less just because she's a woman? No. And also, Chato raised an excellent point. This also will encourage a newer audience. Women remain an untapped audience to cricket. And if you introduce them to cricket, watching other women, they may also take an interest in watching men play too. So, I mean, I think it's an excellent thing to do. And young girls now can look, as I said earlier, I can go and play cricket for a living. So now parents will not be as apprehensive anymore in letting their daughters play this game, because they can see there's a future for them to make a handsome living playing cricket.
Okay, Judah Benjamin, the reason why West Indies don't play test cricket is just the same like how Netherlands, the USA, Canada, and so don't play test cricket. The women team is not, the West Indies is not seen as a test playing nation when it comes to women cricket. The champion is saying that he loves what the president is doing, but is it sustainable? But we have to go to Miles Bascom. So let's start with Dwight. Dwight, go ahead, please, and react to Miles Bascom comments.
So Bascom said a whole lot. I just want to focus on a couple of things that he said that has to do with, one, the prize money, and has to do with the bonus points. I'm not joking. While Basil was speaking and he raised the point about club cricket, because that's something that we have spoken about in the past, I really think that a comprehensive look should be taken by the board at how club cricket is being financed in the region. And the idea of increasing the prize money is a noteworthy idea. But I think where the real work is seeing if they can put together a better policy that will increase the sums which are sent back to the home board, which is specifically set aside to ensuring that we have a strong club structure within each of the territories. So that's the first thing I want to say about that. The second thing he mentioned was the issue of the bonus points. And he has said that they're now looking at tweaking the bonus points so that our cricketers will play in a particular manner. I know, I think it was for the Super 50, I believe it was.
Mhm.
And Andre can correct me, he's always up to date on stuff like this.
Yes.
Bonus points was given for strike rotation, I think of a reduction in dot balls or something like that, because that was a particular area of emphasis that they wanted to see in the team. My view is that a bigger, more important thing is that we need to reform regional cricket, and I think that's where Sir Bascom needs to focus on. I'm very, very disappointed that it doesn't appear, and if somebody can contradict me on this, I'd really be happy for someone to contradict me. But it appears that we won't be having Weeks Headley this year. Weeks Headley was a tournament that was held where we put together the best cricketers coming out of regional, and we had them play games against each other. I don't see why we would move to a system where we simply add more teams to our regional tournament rather than looking to create a way in which we can get the very best cricketers in the Caribbean to play each other more at a later stage in the tournament or something like that. But we reduce it and simply have the very best cricketers, not just the very best team, but the very best cricketers playing each other more. That, I think, will have a bigger impact on improving our cricket rather than bonus points.
Yes, Andre, over to you. Bascom mentioned fitness policy. He mentions medical policy. What is your reaction to these policies, Andre?
Say that again. You were breaking up just now. Could you say
I
that
said
again?
Bascom mentioned fitness policy. He mentioned selection policy. He mentioned medical policy. What are your reactions to those comments?
Yeah, I mean, those are very, very integrally in terms of the overall success of any team. So, I'd love for him to. I'd love to hear some more elaboration where those are concerned. But I fully endorse those being integral as a part of the overall success of the team of the West Indies cricket. So I was pretty happy for that. But I also, let me just touch a bit on in terms of the incentivizing the different, say, in the 50 over and the different competition. I'm most pleased about that because in so doing, players, I think, can take greater responsibility in terms of their performance. In terms of, say, take for instance the Super 50, in terms of strike rotation and and so on and so forth. So incentivizing that, I think it is a great addition, and I most welcomed it. And I think that is something that will actually help in our overall cricket.
Thank you very much. Your reaction now, Basil, to your good friend, Mr. Bascom. I know you're good friends.
You know more than me, man. Yes, the things that Bascom spoke about, they're laudable. I think one of the issues, though, and in terms of, I want to respond to what Chato was saying in terms of they not having the Headley weeks. I think Chato right now, Cricket West Indies is trying to tweak and find that formula that is going to increase the standard of play of our cricket in the region. Hence, you see they go from the weeks thing to this year now they bring in CCC and emerging players into the first class setup now. So let's watch on and see how that goes, because I'll tell you something. One of the strengths of West Indies cricket more than anywhere else in the world or first class cricket was because you were representing your country, and that had an incentive that no other first class or no other nation had in terms of that intensity that we have. So anything to enhance that, let's see how it goes. But in terms of the bonus points and so on, one of my criticisms of the bonus point, you cannot get more bonus points than you would get for a victory, because then you are watering down the whole objective of winning the match. Your bonus points must be so that it would never exceed winning a game. So we had a situation where a team could lose but still get more bonus points and end up with more points than the team that beat them. And that don't make no sense to me at all. The other thing too, in terms of the bonus points, I think that needs to filter down all the way to the clubs. So you're instilling a methodology of playing, strike rotation, getting through the power play by losing less wickets and all of that thing. Not wait until the guys get to regional level, or they're going to go through doing these things in their trials at the territorial level. No, let us in. And that's why I keep hammering. I'm not hearing from CWI a program to address the foundation malaise in cricket throughout the region. Look, I was on a show with the vice president, Bazrat from Trinidad, and he told me that, because I asked him the same specific question, and he said to me, you hit the nail on the head, because in Trinidad, their prime minister have recognized that is an issue that they have allocated the equivalent of $6 million to subsidize clubs in Trinidad because of how all the clubs are struggling.
Thank you very much, Basil. Now, Mrs. Brown, I know that you will agree that with the equity. I know you would agree with that. There's no doubt about that. And Shane Sidney, who's a big fan of the legendary West Indies cricketer Desmond Haynes, said that I think the Honorable Desmond Haynes should be given credit for exposing our young cricketers to international cricket. So Shane Sidney is a fan of Desmond Haynes. I find it should be a clean slate in the Super 6. I think he's talking about the under 19 World Cup. But I don't think it's a clean slate. It's not a clean slate. No, it's not a clean slate.
No, you bring forward
your points that again. And so it is very interesting, because tomorrow morning match, we would South Africa to win that match. However, we want them to come second. We want them to win and come second. Yes. So, all right, gentlemen, we have been at it a while now. Let's now hear your final comment. Go ahead, Andre, with your final comment, please, sir.
Yes, I mean, the Cricket West Indies should be lauded for their great effort, and some of these incentive, is gonna mean the players quite good. But on the other side of that, the flip side is that we'd still love to see more money being pumped into grassroots cricket, more done at that level, because as someone alluded to, a tree without a firm root will not be able to stand. So we appreciate the work done and the sort of incentive given to those representing at the various level now, but we still want to see the money being pumped at the grassroots level so we can see growth at all levels coming up.
Thank you very much, Andre. Basil, let's hear your final comment, please.
Again, I want to I commend Cricket West Indies in their efforts. But I'm still awaiting to hear how you're going to go about with your territorial boards to deal with the issue at the ground level, i.e., club cricket, school cricket, etc. That is a fundamental issue we need to straighten out in our cricket. I think also I commend them for what they're doing with in the equity thing with the women, but we would like to see. I will urge them that this MOU, I hope the MOU is something that we, the cricket public, will be able to access as to some of the details of the agreements. So we, because as I said, the devil is in the details. You can tell us you agree to something, and then when we read the details, we're like, what? You agree to that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Basil. Before I allow Shatu to give his final comment, there's something that you just said there, Basil, that my understanding why the players could not go, decided not to go to Australia is that although Cricket West Indies announced the retainer contract, there was actually no contract signed. So when they wanted some players to go to Australia, they could simply say no because no contract was signed.
Gotcha.
Chatu, let's hear your final comment.
I heard what you said about the issue of central contract signed. But I want to start by saying that what Cricket West Indies has done in some of these announcements, those are quite noble, quite a good effort being made in trying to advance the cricket. I, however, believe that a lot more attention needs to be paid on what the critical issues are. You mentioned the issue about the retainer contracts not being signed, but last year we saw players who had signed retainer contracts in Jason Holder and Paran who are still going off and playing cricket in some of these leagues, even though they were required to play international cricket. So the biggest shift I'd like to see with the West Indies Cricket Board is to see strong administration. All right? A strong administration willing to tackle the tough issues. One tough issue is to have a strong playing 11 on the par. And if they need to sit with WIPA and negotiate that through, we want to see guarantees of having a strong playing 11 because that's where the finances, that's where the money comes from. We want to see reform in terms of regional cricket. To see the best teams or the best players playing each other more often. I personally think that the Week 70 should have been given a longer run. And the final thing I want to endorse what Basil is saying. A lot more has to be done for the club. So all the work that's been done over the next few years, we have heard a lot of news about increased revenue flows coming in. I think it's a time for us to be strategic. It's a time for us to be prudent in how we spend that. And I think those three areas, having strong administration who looking to ensure that we have a good playing 11, who's looking to reform regional cricket to make it more competitive and looking to address the issue of clubs being properly financed and having a strong club cricket structure in place. I think those things have to be done and have to be a primary focus.
Thank you very much, Dwight. What I can say is that the four of us here on this panel, we will be watching the West Indies playing later. And just like how the discussion here is lively, it's the same way we are going to be having a lively discussion later in our WhatsApp group. So I'm asking you, watch the West Indies for the first time in almost 3 decades, they go into the third innings of a match against Australia with their noses in front and has the possibility of winning the match. 12 midnight in the Eastern Caribbean, 11 p.m. in Jamaica. And congratulations also to the under-19 boys for qualifying for the Super 6. Remember, Jeff Miller had said that this West Indies team, under-19 team, is a very strong team, and he expected them to at least make the semifinals. Let's hope that he's right, Let's hope that they can win it for the second time to become the second West Indies under-19 team to win it. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you, all of you, for watching. I really appreciate your company. And join me tomorrow as we summarize the third day's play in the second test match. Have a good evening. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones. Bye for now.